I think we can all agree that this year has been rough politically, economically, and emotionally. I acknowledge this reality because despite how crappy things have been, tabletop role-playing games this year have had an incredible moment. There's been a lot of light and joy in the RPG space with all of these awesome games and art and whatnot that have been released. And while my life has become incredibly busy, I want to share that playing tabletop role-playing games and coming back to the hobby every single day brings me a lot of joy. So, why not put all that joy and merry into a lovely tabletop RPG wrap-up video like I always do every year? So, friends, gamers, GMs, and everyone else alongside me, grab a hot beverage of your choosing, and let's sit on my lap as I tell you about my favorite tabletop RPG things and stuff of 2025. I'll separate this into 4 sections throughout the video. Creators and artists. These are going to be people in the tabletop RPG space or some who might be adjacent who caught my eye. This could be artists that were featured in a game or someone I just saw on social media. Articles, essays, literature, and podcasts. This will go over my favorite articles, podcasts, or blogs that I found and talk about what I read. Third, favorite tabletop role-playing games. This will go over my favorite games that I ran throughout 2025. This will also include honorable mentions, as well as games that I didn't play, but I want to in 2026. And finally, fourth is miscellaneous. This is anything that just didn't fit into other categories, that I might have forgotten, or just that I wanted to include because I thought it was worth talking about. So, with that out of the way, let's get into my favorite artist this year. Dark fantasy has always been a subgenre of tabletop games and aesthetics that tickle my brain. I love books like Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, or Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Ademi. I also am a big fan of dark fantasy anime like Berserk, Full Metal Alchemist, or Moriarty the Patriot. So when I came across Toi Varg, aka Anastasia's work on Blue Sky, I was taken back by the richness of her art and stylization. Her half-body and full-color pieces have this sense of dread amongst the mysticism. My favorite one being the commissioned artwork of a knight. The look of exhaustion is very clear and immediate. The exhaustion contrasts the knight's armor and regalia, especially on their arm. You can tell the knight has some sort of sense of style, or is likely a higher ranking officer of some kind given the armor regalia. Furthermore, your eyes lead to the strips of red cloth on the lower half of the drawing, which gives something colorful and characteristic to look at beyond the drab browns and whatnot, and excluding the character themselves. The overarching piece then tells the story of a knight or soldier who's at their wit's end, not likely from some battle, given they have no battle scars, but rather from something more akin to mental or emotional exhaustion. I could really see a lot of folks who play Call of Cthulhu or other gothic horror games getting portrait commissions because Anastasia is perfect at grabbing human expressions that fit those settings. If you want an artist that beautifully captures deep expressions of fantasy and non-fantasy alike, especially in 19th century and dark fantasy, then Anastasia/Toi Varg is the person for this. Now, as of recording, commissions are currently closed, but keep an eye out on her Blue Sky and website over here, which will also be found down below in the description box. Moving away from dark fantasy, some artists evoke a strong sense of whimsy and yearning. The artist that comes to mind is Gremlin Frog Art/Tanlin. Gremlin creates these colorful pieces each that captures a different season of the award-winning podcast 5 GMs in a Trench Coat, which they are part of. Season 5's array of pieces really captures that love for the 1980s, especially since they are playing Kids on Bikes 2E. For instance, the characters of Season 5 have children and adult versions, and I find how the kid versions are an indicator of who they become as adults to be a really awesome way of portraying the characters. For instance, Javier O'Reilly, Javi, is a sportsy, high enthusiastic kid in his kid version. Javi has some scratches on his knees and an extra set of sneakers. The adult counterpart has that similar sports aesthetic with the sneakers and outfits reflecting that color scheme, and notice the knee brace. Javi's clearly a bit more reserved, but their childhood self still resonates. The same logic applies for the rest of the cast of characters as you see here. Their children's versions reflect their adult counterparts in fun ways, and the ability for me or any other person to pick up on something like that very easily from the art is a great detail that's worth celebrating. That same power of bringing characters to life exists in much of Gremlin's other work. One can see this in the character art of Lou Wells in Queer RPG's Moonlight on Roswell Beach AP. You can see it in the Romanesque cover of their Good Society podcast, Marriage and Merriment, or in the concept art for Round the Campfire. All of these pieces I've mentioned here have this sense of life. There's a lot going on, but you can clearly tell that there's a particular message they want to get across. It makes me feel like I'm sitting down for, say, a cartoon or a magazine whenever I see Gremlin's artwork. And I'm hoping that in the future I get to watch their Good Society actual play, given that, well, I'm really interested in running it myself in the future. We've covered 19th century and patriarch's Gothic art, vibrant, colorful artwork, and now we have poppy and stylish illustrations that'll make your eyes light up. This artist I'm talking about is Mexican tabletop RPG designer and artist El Chupalabras. I found El Chupalabras through them being the creator of Cocotona. Cocotona is a standalone workboard game that pulls from pre-colonial Mesoamerica. The game's setting is like nothing I've ever seen. Sharp, vibrant reds, blacks, and whites that reflect much of the Morkborg design iconography while clearly being its own entity culturally and game-wise. El Chupalabras makes sure to emphasize this also not as a game about savages or colonizers. This is a game about surviving dying gods and carving out a life amongst the horrifying grimdark. So El Chupalabras' art is dazzling, poppy, and it's like eating candy. There's always something colorful to look at, styles to see, or something fun to chew on. If you want to support El Chupalabras' work, I'll have a link to Cocotona and El Chupalabras' VGen if you want to commission the artist. Next is Garen, who was one of the major illustrators for Cloud Empress, which was released in 2024. And as you can just see, Garen's usage of black and white juxtaposed with exquisite detail is what drives me back to their art every single time. I think out of the many artists here, I love Garen most for how they draw cityscapes, or how they draw specifically individual people. For example, their cityscapes feel like science fiction combined with modern with a little bit of retrofuturism. The cities feel clustered yet lively and unique. For example, this picture of an ancient ruins overgrown by nature, or this city landscape has this sense of dreariness, but also mysteriousness and mystique. Garen's art is one that sends me on a journey through my imagination, because every time I come back to it, I see something new and innovative. There's something that I didn't quite catch before, and then I come back to it and I realize, oh, that's new, and I find something new to talk about. I really do think Garen was an amazing choice for Cloud Empress, and I'm hoping to see more art in the next expansions for Cloud Empress and wherever else I see them. You can find all of Garen's work on Blue Sky, Instagram, and their Patreon. Final artist is Sabboth. Sabboth has been an artist I have been following since 2024, specifically due to their game Bosk Age, which is in development. Sabboth's art, especially for Bosk Age, is dark and gritty, but it doesn't need to be gory or generally violent. It's cruel and sinister, using the sharp edges of black and white without needing to add extra color. I think my favorite piece is this Lapine-like creature who lies over a lone adventurer amongst the darkness. It's extremely eye-catching to see the contrast in size, composition, and general disposition between the two characters. The use of white nails on this rabbit-like creature, in contrast to much of its body being entirely black, shows you how dangerous this creature is. That's the only thing that's white on it. So, all of these contrasting details shows you this sense of danger and foreboding, and that's just from one piece. If you want to see more of Sabboth's artwork for Bosk Age, you can check out sabbothRPG.com, or you can check out their Blue Sky. Regardless of the choice you make, I'm super excited to see what Sabboth is cooking up in the future, as well as the development of Bosk Age. This year, in terms of articles, essays, and literature, there has been a lot of really awesome stuff that's come out. Obviously, this isn't going to be an exhaustive list, but here are some of the stuff that I've read and or thought about that I think is worth sharing. Starting off strong is Blogosphere Map by Elmcat. The Blogosphere Map is an interactive graph of tabletop RPG related blogs. Each node is a blog and each edge between nodes is one blog linking to another. By the way, when we see edge, we mean the lines between the nodes. The nodes are weighted, so that means the more the blog gets linked, the bigger its node. Also, count how many times I say node in this video. For the data-minded nerds, this is a treasure trove. These nodes have been clustered into one of 8 communities, with Community 1 having the largest communities and Community 5 with the least. There are also lots of stats on 2A blogs, blogs that link out a lot, and how many visits each community gets. There is just so much richness in this data, and just to see how much the community interacts with each other is brilliant, especially when it's visualized. And admittedly, at first, I didn't pay much attention to this or the blogosphere, but as I played around with it, phrasing, I felt a deep sense of historical appreciation. The amount of crosstalk between communities is amazing. It was and is a reminder that much of the tabletop gaming scene, especially on the blog end, survives due to how interconnected we are to each other. Blogs that appear as early as 2005, like Gnome Stew, would go on to inspire future blogs and writings. Blogs I recall citing when I was doing research on OSR games or a topic unrelated appear. Blogs like Dyson's Dodecahedron? Actually, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm just gonna keep that in. Anyway, blogs like this have a huge impact on the blogosphere. By visualizing this community and connection, I'm reminded that my work and the work of others is so interchangeably connected to one another. It's a reminder that we're not alone in this lovely RPG space. On the other hand, one conversation that will never end in the blogosphere and beyond is whether systems matter. We could get into this discourse on whether systems matter, and I personally think they do, because a game of Good Society versus Liminal Horror are going to sharply be different, not only due to the themes, but obviously because of mechanics. That being said, Cannibal Halfling Games brings up a less so talked about point in their article, Gaming Groups and the Social System, the social dynamics of play. Your group will define how the system plays out. Things like the age of your gaming group, your preferences and what kind of genres you play, and your mindset will affect how you play and the synergy a gaming group has with each other. Cannibal Halfling Games offers us an in-depth look at not that the system doesn't matter, but rather how we define our gaming groups and the social aspects matter just as much. Mechanics are static objects, whereas gaming groups are not. The rules for, say, Island of Dr. Moreau, Gorge World, 10 Candles, or Break RPG, and yeah, I know, a crazy choice of games across the spectrum, but please just stick with me, are not going to change at all whether you played them today or 15 years later. What will change is how players respond to the systems and the social dynamics that exist within that group. Your gaming group, as CGH says, depends so much on individual personalities, extant conflict resolution skills, and past history, which is a big factor into a game's experience at a table. The blog does not provide, as well, any particularly resolute decisions, but adds an important factor that I think is sometimes missed when we're talking about systems. Who you play with matters as much as the system does. I know it sounds obvious, but it's important to recommend and understand that, because I feel like we get into this conversation on whether systems matter or not, which they do, but it's important to acknowledge the social background and the demographics of your table to see even if that system works for your table. Next are 2 articles from writers on Rascal that I wanted to highlight. First is an actual play article titled Twitch Streamers Core Community Self-Actualization Amidst Burnout. In this article, they discuss how organizers of Apochromatic, Unlimited, and Girls Run These Worlds are dealing with burnout while creating Black-centered AP spaces. Honestly, knowing that Black artists are wrestling with being creatives and the need to create these spaces makes me feel a lot more in community, if you will. While I don't exactly watch a lot of APs simply because I just rather play the games myself, I still really appreciate reading articles like this because it shows just how many of the issues that I feel like I'm dealing with aren't by myself. And as we'll get into when I talk a bit about Pax Unplugged later in the video, you'll see that recurring theme come up. But seriously, great article from the folks Rowan and Thomas. Next is Austerity Killed Narrative Wargaming, and Statistically You're None. I love how this article focuses on wargaming as a core part of CJ Sherwood's development and framing coming into the hobby. How that hobby, aka wargaming, shifted as funds were slashed, austerity kicked these hobbies to the curb or changed them drastically. All this essentially led to a less than fun time due to how social engagement turned out. And while I cannot speak confidently on wargaming at all, since I haven't played any wargames, honestly, reading this reminded me that wargames can be and should be just as fun as our tabletop RPG counterparts, and it wouldn't hurt for me to maybe try them one day. Probably not this year though, probably next year. Next is Essay, Book Play and Tabletop Role-Playing Games. This essay decides to take the actual books we play in as part of the play in tabletop role-playing games. That's a lot of work to say play multiple times, but just bear with me. Backwards Tabletop, as we'll refer to as BT, discusses how a RPG book can be a prop, artwork, or anchor in our games. The writer describes each of these aspects using different games, such as Wanderhome functioning as anchor, or Sweet Agatha as a book seen as artwork due to its ability to be an artistic tool. I find this framing really fun and innovative, because it pushes the idea of what an RPG can be. An RPG does not just need to be a book that anchors everyone around a set of mechanics and agreed upon framework or setting. RPGs can be enjoyed as artwork or as a prop, in the case of Apollo 47 Technical Manual being a strong example of just a heavy prop. That framing is a fun reminder that RPGs don't need to just be games, but things that inspire us beyond the table. And knowing that reminds me that maybe we should look more into playing RPGs, not just for the mechanics, but for what else they can offer for our table, for ourselves, and for our future communities. Finally, is Faggot Games. One set of essays and movements that has fundamentally rewired how I think about tabletop games is Faggot Games movement. Seriously, out of all the essays and movements that have come through my mind this 2025, this series of essays by Eclipse and several other writers, authors, and game developers has sat in my brain pretty much every day. At first, I was a little confused by the series of essays from Eclipse and the movement. Similar to Brandon O'Brien's essay on horny games, he asks, what am I so afraid of? And I asked myself that same question. It's that same lingering question of clearly coming from a place of internalized homophobia and queerphobia. So as I dived deeper into Faggot Games, it reminded me that I actually have a lot of joy from experiencing these games, from reading these games. To add, some of the traits in Faggot Games speak to me personally. It's the loud queer sexuality without a need or desire to make play more comfortable for cishet sensibilities. It's the departure from common player and character consent and a broad rejection of city framework for something more robust. It's the use of fetish, kink, and other fantasies at the forefront of many of the games, inspired by the game jams and whatnot that came out. And it's a focus on challenging and unexpected material and visuals. This material was and is something that is deeply exciting and a little bit scary because it's something new for me. But I knew, even as my brain hesitated and my heart hesitated a little bit, I knew this was the right decision to make. I knew that participating, even by just reading and consuming, was something in its own right a beautiful experience. So I took on the opportunity to write a video essay back in May or June 2025. And let's say I started writing it, recorded, and well, as you can see, it didn't really go anywhere. But looking back on it, reading other people's explorations on faggot games, and taking a deep hard look on myself, I realized that my journey isn't done. I want to challenge myself and question why I think the way I do about certain games. Because our lives have never truly been safe as queer folk, especially not now. So what good is it letting fear drive me into a corner? As much as games like Hawkmoth or Digital Angel make me a little uncomfortable, they also make me deeply smile and joyous. Games from the Faggot Games Jams and TTRPG really do make me feel good when I read them. And honestly, I want to play them. I want to play them and keep reading them because deep down they explore themes and topics that I know deserve as much attention as I give to other games. We deserve more games like this, not only because they are jarring or because they're, outside of the main periphery of RPGs, but because we deserve to explore strong topics of kink and sexuality. And for that reason, and with love in my heart, I truly and highly recommend checking out Faggot Games, essays, jams, and the many creators that have come from it. Moving away from articles, let's get to the actual favorite part people want to hear. Their favorite role-playing games of 2025. And starting off strong, we have Land of Eam. Land of Eam was an RPG that I was not expecting to really get my attention. But after playing it at MomoCon in 2025, that changed. Land of Eam is a lighthearted fantasy RPG where players take on the role of travelers seeking fun and adventure. I know, it sounds pretty generic on paper, but I think what sold me was how easy it is to play. The players and GMs portray colorful and whimsical characters who wish to do good, and unlike some of the other games we'll talk about, it's not as serious in tone, so it's definitely made for a more child-friendly audience. The best part is how simple the mechanics are for players and facilitators. Skill checks are on the basis of a 1d12, a range of success going from 1 to 2 all the way to 9+. The max modifier for all primary skills, Vim, Vigor, Knack, and Knowledge, range from +3 all the way to a -3. These mechanics are all quickly available, coming out to 2 pages out of the core rulebook, literally in I think the first 4 or 5 pages. Sometimes I am looking for a game that is simple and evocative, and Land of Eam does that. It captures that mixture of Lord of Rings with its expansive setting while also being zany like Adventure Time and Muppets. This comfort feeling and ease of use is why I will go back to the Land of Eam in 2026. No, please stay for more than just one session. Whereas some games hook you with their charm, some games are more tantalizing and heart-throbbing. The game that got me instantly hooked was Sapphicworld by Darling Damien Games, and aka Eclipse. The game was first published in 2023 and updated continuously even into 2025. Sapphicworld is a power-beat apocalypse game for 1 game mistress, love that name by the way, and 2 to 5 players. In Sapphicworld, you adventure through the lands, meeting beautiful folk and encountering beasts. This could be you and your crew helping some Minotaur folk with some relationship issues after they broke up with their lover, or it could look like you and your crew blustering your way through a conversation to spy our darling because you want to romance her. Whatever choice you make in the lands, the people and beasts you meet all feel like fully realized folks with their own thoughts, or lack thereof in the case of the crew of bimbos that helped us on our journey when I played it at Pax Unplugged. Anyhow, I think the best part of Sapphicworld is how it's unabashedly embraced kink, love, intimacy, without compromising any of that. And as you could have guessed, Sapphicworld is part of the many other games that are part of Faggot Games. since it was written by Eclipse, who created the Faggot Games Jam. You can see all of this kink, love, and intimacy in many of its writing. For example, the prologue is both deeply perverse and beautiful, referencing lipstick, fingers, and pushing that through your lover. I think you can get what I'm putting down. So, I would read it out, but I don't want to spoil it since there is no official release as of writing this. So instead, I'll be talking about my experiences with Twink Controversial. The Twink Controversial is a playbook and someone who's fallen from grace due to losing a precious relic, but also has a way about them that drives people to them. It's a fun time with the Twink until you have no choice but to obliterate them because they're obnoxious or they're toxic in some capacity. And I loved how that they are this balancing act of being both the most annoying person in the room while also everyone loved them. I think this is personified especially in the questions and subsequent answers you can get in their playbook. A question like, "What do you see when I look at you?" or rather, "What do you see when I look your way?" can be answered with a snickering fruit and a mess splattered flag, eyes full of queer mischief. Another question is, "What is your heart?" And that can be answered with, "Have someone really care about you for a long while." Those questions and answers hit a chord of being both really funny as well as sensual and heartfelt. And I think that ability to be both extremely heartfelt and sexy and tender is what makes me love Sapphicworld so much. Throughout my experience playing it at PAX Unplugged, I felt like I was deeply connected with the other players. It was tender, hot, funny, and all the characters were just really strong. They felt like fully realized people, and I could tell Eclipse put a deep sense of love in it. And I can tell that many of the other people that have read over and play tested it also put a lot of their energy and love into it. So it's with a grand heart I say I would highly recommend you play Sapphicworld in some capacity in 2026. On the other end of the spectrum is a deep, dreading darkness, where the land of Eames shines bright and Sapphicworld drips with raunchy glory. Some worlds explore humanity's survival against the viscera that is darkness. Excluding all the edginess aside, the game that perfectly captures that battle is Liminal Horror. Liminal Horror is a D20 rules-light survival horror game that was first published on May 21, 2021. The game is about playing everyday normal characters and how they struggle and survive against horrors, both man-made and uncanny. The game's huge community means there are loads of material to run all sorts of adventures from holiday-themed to specific types like horror, such as body or psychological. Developer-wise, Space Penguin Inc. and Goblin Archives are currently developing a Liminal Horror Deluxe Edition. This Deluxe Edition was funded back on May 15, 2025, and will include new player options, a catalog with factions, cults, and enemies, as well as detailed setting guides and more illustrated art. So while the game did come out in 2021, it's still getting updates in 2025, and I'm really excited to see the Deluxe Edition hopefully in 2026. So the fact that Liminal Horror stood the test of time since release and it's fostering new community support is a testament to how survival horror is coming back full-fledged in 2025, and it will be in 2026, thanks to developers and the community of Liminal Horror. While Liminal Horror might be terrifying, some settings manage to be both whimsical and scary at the same time. A setting that combines both is Dolmenwood, which has taken over my mind and life in 2025. Dolmenwood is a Beaks D&D setting made by Necrotic Gnome. Dolmenwood's inspiration is from fairy tales and eerie British folklore, which is both dark, whimsical, wondrous, and at times horrifying. The core set of books comes as a pack of 3. The combination consists of the player, campaign, and monster books. I really think the selling point is in the setting and endless potential for this fun hex crawl. The various locations each have something fun to offer. You can have your adventure group collect and forage weird fungi, which is something my players and I love to do. You could journey into a timeless realm of fairies, or escape on back to the mortal realm, looking to uncover great treasure. One could even align themselves with the wicked trickster Naglord and try to find or send the world of Dolmenwood into chaos. Whatever decision you make, there are so many factions and powers across Dolmenwood, allowing for players and GMs endless flexibility on what they can do or achieve. So I really think the wide creativity in its kindred, its setting, and its dark inspiration have come back in a way that I haven't seen in any other setting in a BXD&D game. So if you're looking for a unique setting in 2026, then check out Dolmenwood. Next are the honorable mentions. These include games I bought, read through, or actively interacted with, but I did not run or play. Many of these games I just didn't have the time to, there wasn't enough players, I didn't have the ability to, but if I could, I will be playing or running these games in 2026. Starting off strong, Griot Anthology. Griot Anthology is a design created by Thoughtcrime Games that highlights the brilliant work of Black tabletop RPG game designers and artists. Griot Anthology features 7 games of various playstyles, all developed with full illustrations and art in the digital/paperback version. For instance, you could play Come Out From Your Graves, which is a horror historical GMless game about reviving your dead ancestors. There's also Intergalactic Tease, which is a game about ushering in change using your shared experiences and the power of ballroom culture. Each of these 7 games take on a unique Black experience through a tabletop RPG lens. Some games involve ancestry, others involve ballroom culture, and some are about community engagement, such as Neighbor Robots. Whatever game you decide to play, there's a clear and deep sense of love and appreciation of Blackness across the diaspora. And quite frankly, out of the many games that I saw at Pax Unplugged that I played, having an entire design made by and for Black developers always warms my heart. So, by the way, thank you to all the creatives that talked to me at Pax Unplugged, especially the folks who advertised Intergalactic Tease. It was an awesome time just looking through that. The art is beautiful, and I'm hoping to run this to some of my servers, especially my predominantly Black servers in the future. Interstitial 2E. I love Kingdom Hearts. So when I saw that Interstitial got a 2nd edition, I knew I needed to talk about this game. Interstitial 2E, Our Worlds Connected, i.e. Interstitial 2E, by Riley Hopkins is a game about going from world to world fighting monsters and making friends along the way. I think the best part or aspect is, on face value, is how the game tells you to lean into the over-the-top fanfiction elements, to essentially make this your own game. If you want it to be a cross-world experience where every character is trying to save the world, you can. If you want to run a game where you cross over Doctor Who, Resident Evil, Cardcaptor Sakura, and Camp Rock, there is nothing stopping you. This game gives you the chance to play whatever fun fanfiction dream you have and put it out into the world. Also, there's a good amount of community material from new playbooks like The Masked or Mastermind to unofficial character sheets easily available on itch.io. Plus, the variety of art in the game is really awesome, with different art styles to show you that they're all from different worlds, which is a very awesome detail. I'm hoping to run Interstitial 2E eventually. While we are on the topic of exploring a new world, let's head on to the island of Dr. Moreau. The island of Dr. Moreau, IODM, is created by Dr. Ulysses Dougler and is a transformation campaign tabletop RPG where you play staff and participants surviving on an island with an administration that intends to change them into something different and new. The game is played using a huge cast of characters, over nearly 30 plus, from new islanders to staff. IODM intends to emulate the messy and chaotic world of online roleplay in the 2000s, where characters are battling not only the drama on the island from Pharaoh Labs and surviving, but their interpersonal drama, romantic relationships, and what home will look like, assuming they survive the ordeal. I realized very early on that IODM is a story about interpersonal relationships and how those change through factors both outside and inside our lives. As I supported a Kickstarter and looked through the book, I could see how the theme of transformation is done effectively when it's in a long-form campaign. And this isn't to deny that you can't play a transformation RPG like To Change in short form or in a one-shot. Plenty of people have done it. What I am saying is, the Island of Dr. Moreau succeeds best as a long-term campaign, and it's because you see the literal change of characters, not only their physical bodies into their new transformations, but you also see the change of the island. You see the change of the character's personal experiences, and you see the change of each character's personality. The best part is that each character has connections / networks to each other. That means even if you play through 20 sessions, you're not going to see every character's goals through it all. Whether it's because they die or are removed from the island, you have to replay the game or play new characters. So every time you're going to find something new. This is all to say that IODM is a game that allows for hundreds of interpersonal drama and horror scenarios due to its characters. The lavish details each character gets in the book allows for all players and facilitators a lot to work with. This is going to result in a narrative and character-focused game. For instance, Timothy Moreau, the aloof furry and video gamer, nephew of Dr. Moreau, Callan Ramsey, the outsider who stripped up the island, or Dr. Colleen Winters, aka my favorite character, is the cruel doctor who knows she's destined for death, but dreams of torturing other participants. All have a place on this island. This means you can play all of these characters and inevitably get wildly different experiences each time just based off the wide cast of characters and its card-based system. So if you're looking for a game that can capture the euphoria and horror of transformation communities, contains loads of melodrama from media like Love Island and Lost, and you enjoy beautiful and visceral art from tons of talented queer and transgender artists, I highly recommend you pick up Dr. Ulysses Duckler's Mind of Dr. Moreau. While some folks might want to change into a cow, I have obviously a cooler thing to do than, well, body horror and restructuring my DNA. And I think you can guess what I'm talking about. Yeah, dueling it out with the homies after school or after work, then you might be picking up what I'm putting down. The game I'm talking about is Perfect Draw by Double Summon Games. Perfect Draw came out in 2024, and as of 2025 had an expanded piece of content, aka called the Booster Box, come out in 2025. The game uses PBTA as its frame and combines traditional card game mechanics with storytelling to match card game toy anime like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Card Fighter, or even technically Bakugan Brawl. This game is a sleeper hit if you ask me. It fills a very specific niche that most tabletop RPGs, especially anime tabletop RPGs, do not try to reach, which is card games. So to set this game in respect to card games, I think is really awesome. Plus, there are amazing reviews by, say, folks like Sayof, who talk about Perfect Draw in grand detail. So if you're a fan of card games, if you're a fan of anything like it, then you should definitely check out Perfect Draw. Finally is iToaster. iToaster I demoed back during the summer, and this is the creation of Tony Vasinda's from Plus One EXP, and features art by Billy Blue. iToaster takes direct inspiration from 1987's The Brave Little Toaster. The game uses a roll under or equal to 2d6 system, and the stat system is also super simple. I think the novelty was how it perfectly captured the vibes of Brave Little Toaster while using simple mechanics. And the best part is that the setting does not limit the game. The point of playing appliances is to make sure you discover, serve, and please your owner. Despite that, you exist in a retroistic future and techno-ambiguous society. This means the unrealistic can and will happen. Don't worry about how an air fryer could exist in the 1980s or how a hot plate can be powered by AAA batteries. The point of the game isn't about creating some sort of pseudo-realism, but a story about how small characters manage to find their place in a big world. For the game I played, even if brief, iToaster was super charming and easy to pick up in no time. If you need a quick, no-prep game that captures the feel of a classic 1980s movie in only 32 pages, then this is the game for you. Next are the games that I didn't get to play much, or I didn't play at all, or I just didn't have enough to work off of, but I still wanted to highlight because I think it's important to talk about a variety of tabletop RPGs, and this is my video, so I can talk about whatever game I want. Anyway, starting off strong is Underfoot by Ella Carter. I bought this at PAX and met the creator briefly. I love a game where you play small fae trying to survive and make it out in the real world. It's gotta be one of my favorite tropes. Last Kiss by Brian and Liberge. I played it at PAX Unplugged, and the experience of the GM who ran it was magical. It was tragic, fun, and hopeless. Despite that, it was super thrilling to see it to the end, and I'm super excited to see this game come out in 2026. Blister Critter. Blister Critter caught my eye simply because it's a combination of Mouse Ritter and Slug Blasters, which just sounds really nifty. And come on, you can't just say a combination of Mouse Ritter and Slug Blaster and not have me hooked immediately. Riverbank RPG. This game is by Cobalt Press. I love the idea of playing social encounters in a high society game with fantasy elements and no combat. Voidlight by Fari RPG. This is sci-fi horror dungeon crawl with modern design principles that's made for solo and co-op play. I'm a big fan of sci-fi and horror, as you could probably tell. Girlfriend by Anxious Mimic RPGs / Isabel. I found this game through the grapevine of other games on Discord. What solidified my love for this game was the community post Isabel made about her game. Girlfriend is a power buddy apocalypse game about oppressed lesbians and half-alive mechs fighting eldritch horrors, being exploited by the handler, and having relationships with disastrous consequences. It has everything I want in a game. Mechs, eldritch horrors, badass lesbians fighting oppression, and cool relationship drama. What more can a queer ask for? Kanine by Tuna Flesh. I love games that are sexy, sultry, and freaky. The theming of canines as part of the conversation on CNC and King Spaces is honestly really brilliant. Also, in terms of optimal ending, made my RPG brain tinkle in all the right ways. If you love faggot games and want to explore a king game that explores CNC and voyeurism, then this is perfect for you. Eat God by Penguin King Games. I love a good parody game. Eat God is exactly that. You're playing folks who are seen as small and who are tired of being overlooked, so it's time to kill God. What is not more quintessential than an RPG that you just kill God? Also, you look at Muppets, which, hey, as you can see from my experience talking about Land of Eam, I'm always a fan of. Finally, I'm going to shout out other miscellaneous tabletop RPG activities, events, conferences, or material, or start playing stuff that I did that I just didn't think there was anywhere else to fit. First, I participated in a workshop by Somnus Grey on designing thumbnails for beginners. The workshop was specific to start playing game sessions. That workshop was super well organized and was a great way to check info I may have missed. There isn't any masterclass in creating graphic designs or art or even pieces for, say, your advertised games or YouTube videos or your other creative work. Furthermore, as generative AI continues to remain absolute schlop and people continue to seem to use it in some of their art, Somnus' workshop back in January/February reminded me that you should not need these machines to be creative. We have all the tools readily available, and we should use our restrictions financially, artistically, and otherwise to create the art that matches our work. I say if you're looking for a super creative game master and VTuber, then go check out Somnus over in the description box. Seriously, thank you Somnus for your awesome workshop. I also played in some really impressive and fun start playing games. One was with Lantern Keeper, or Ran, who ran Bluebeard's Bride. Lantern Keeper set the tone of Bluebeard's Bride, and it was a downright haunting experience. It focused on helplessness while also being an invigorating story. We felt like we had choices to make, even though we know that we were doomed in this feminine horror. Ran used an inciting questions to really draw intense emotional moments that felt personable and fun. If you have the time and resources and want to play Bluebeard Bride, Ran is the game master perfect for it. The other fun game master was Game Master Morgan, who I played Alice is Missing with some of my friends on my own start playing server. Or rather, I played it on their start playing server with my friends that were on mine. Anyway, my point is, Morgan early on gave us a lot of time to really get comfortable with him. So Morgan really helped us get into the emotional underbelly that is needed for Alice is Missing. It also helped that me and my friends were super shitposted considerably, which helped ease me into the game. That factor on top of Morgan's keen use of stars and wishes at the end of the game and helping us unpack the game experience stuck with me. I think that level of aftercare is super important and something that I want to start implementing more in my games, both on start playing and elsewhere. Fourthly, I haven't listened to a lot of podcasts or actual play actually this year, so sorry about not having that as much as a focus in this video. However, there was one podcast that I listened to pretty consistently, and that is Matt Caller's What You Doing podcast. Seriously, Matt, this podcast has helped me through a lot. Like, when I've been super busy with life and all the other stuff that I've had, putting this on and seeing people talk about their favorite thing that they're working on has really helped me center myself. Some of my favorite of your covers have been Aviv and Aaron's Crystal Hearts and Josh Dunwinski's Liminal Horror, so seriously, Matt, thanks. It's been a real fun time listening to your podcast. I'm excited for other episodes in 2026. Next, a shout out to some of the awesome folks I met at Pax Unplugged. It was really awesome to meet Winter D&D and the crew of Weird Place at PAX. Speaking of PAX, I was super involved and I got to run Liminal Horror with some amazing players, as well as I got to run a Perfect Rock. So a special thank you to the folks who worked in PAX together and in the Interstitial Games Library, as well as Dots, for crafting this space to run the games that I were able to. Seriously, thank you so much. Next, One Page RPG, as with every year, was really fantastic. I'm always happy to cover these games, and honestly, this year I'm super happy that they decided to remove generative AI entirely from the equation. So seriously, the folks at One Page RPG and all of the people that submitted their games that I talked about and that I couldn't, happy that we had 2025 to make new games. Finally, Hearth Magazine. I subscribed to Hearth Magazine back earlier in the year around April or so, and I don't regret my decision whatsoever. It's extremely pleasant to have a magazine about tabletop role-playing games in my inbox that I can just check at any given point and reference. If this is how it felt to have the Dragon magazines back in the day, then honestly, Hearth Magazine captures that, but with a more modern twist, with artists and creatives who are on the margins in the focus, which I think is a good and net benefit. Seriously, thank you, Hearth Magazine, for your amazing collection of issues and articles from a variety of folks across the space. And also, my personal favorite issue is probably too, simply because of the cover. I love a good parody of, say, classic D&D. In conclusion, those are some of the games, podcasts, artists, content, creatives, magazines, and whatnot in the RPG scene that matter to me. Personally, as I kind of implied earlier, these last few months have made it difficult to post as much as I want, but I'm learning that it's okay to take my pace through the videos and art I make. That being said, if you stuck around through all of this, I really do appreciate you taking the time. It's always a blessing when people make time for the things I make, and I'm hoping to cover more unique RPGs this year, aka 2026. This is truly a labor of love, and I do this because it's fun to talk about queer, nerdy shit online with other people. If there was a game or topic I didn't cover in the TTRPG Wrapped, let me know down below in the comment section. There's only so much I can do, and I'm only one person, and I'll be quite honest, I don't get paid to do this. It's entirely pretty much my own time. So if you do want to support me, seriously, go check out my Patreon or Coffee here if you have the money to donate this season. If not, I'll just deal with whatever I get, okay? Nevertheless, thank you for your time, and hope you all have an amazing holiday and happy new year. I'll see you in 2026 where we kick some more ass. And as always, I'm your average everyday queer host, Lord Edition. You all have an amazing new year. Ciao!